We are turning nature into a toy, like a dream dollhouse or action playset. Let the kids loose to make their own fairy treehouse. It's a creative project where imagination takes over. Cynthia Eggertz is here to share this totally new twist on the fairy garden. And people have been loving this fairy garden concept for years now. I mean, the trend keeps growing. You do have your own spin on it, and I have to say it's totally magical.
Thank you.
Magical. Where did you get this idea?
So if you go for walks and hike or in the woods, you'll see random things here and there, and the more I do it, you develop something called fairy brain. So you see something, and you're like, okay, this could be something else. And then your brain starts going,
fairy brain.
Fairy brain,
it's
totally.
Well, people are obsessed with the miniatures, right? Those mini landscapes. So your eye just starts to become trained to look for that?
You get trained to look for it, and you'll see a piece of bark, and you'll be like, that could totally be the roof on our house. And then it grows and expands from there.
Grows literally. I mean, you have expanded just on a basic piece of wood. You said wood and artificial flowers.
Wood and artificial flowers.
All you need.
And you make a little world.
What else is your fairy brain looking for or collecting as part of this world creation?
So you can use anything as you're walking and taking hikes. You can see, you know, pine cones or sticks and make little homes wherever you go. These, I've just used logs. And you can find them anywhere, from like the woodcutters who sell them at their place, you know, bundles of wood at the gas station.
But this is the real deal. This isn't your aisle 2 at Michael's.
This is a piece of wood. Yes, this comes from a tree. I actually found this one. My neighbor has wood on her porch that they burn, and so I asked her for a couple logs, and she let me borrow some.
You said, dear fairy neighbor, may I please take this beautiful house
and make it into a house?
Show us how you transformed it. We've been looking at some examples, and really, I'm guessing no rhyme or reason, but the more you add, the more magic you create. Is that how it goes?
Totally. And a tip I would give, I've had some, you know, young kids build these. This was 6- and 7-year-old built this cute home.
Look at this. What do you like about this?
You know, the whole process, I think, is my favorite. Watching them build and create. I'm going to turn this one around so I can show you.
Please, yeah.
On the back. They built this little balcony for her. So they loaded up on lots of hot glue gun and stuck the twigs all together.
That deck has to be sturdy.
Exactly.
No fairies can be falling from the second tier.
We don't want broken fairy legs.
So there's a deck, and I am smitten. Look at this little swing over here.
So he just got a piece of bark, and then he got some golden twine and just wrapped it around, put a stick in there, and then, yes, a fairy swing.
Oh, see, suddenly it's an enchanted swing because you said golden twine.
Golden twine.
There's golden twine suspending this. See, I would get into this. It's like
magical.
The inner Barbie dream house, but better.
But better.
In all of us.
Because it's earthy, and yes.
Yeah. Speaking of the earthy effect, I love the moss that you've added just on all corners.
Yeah, so all of these supplies you can find out in Mother Nature around your yard, or even just go to the dollar store. The artificial flowers I found there, the moss, same thing. This is just reindeer moss. So all of these items can be purchased. Dried flowers are nice, and artificial flowers, because they'll last longer.
Point out a few more details. What's happening on this house that we love?
So on this house, they used, this is what I love. They used 2 flower petals to create like a little arbor over the front door.
Clever.
Which is super clever.
Yes.
They used this grass at the very top to make a little chimney.
Oh my gosh. And these are kids, their minds at work.
Yes, minds at work.
And this one down front looks very elaborate in the landscape.
Yes, so these, I built these 2. I wanted one to look more whimsical, like a fairy home, and the other more, I used fall colors to make it look more like a gnome home, because boys are into gnomes.
Sure,
Sometimes not fairies as much. And then we just used a couple pieces of bark to create the roof. And I just pre-drilled the holes, drilled them in there, and they're good to go.
Where are you getting like the door detail?
So the doors, I've seen people make them out of popsicle sticks glued together, but I also sell the doors on my shop online.
These are incredible.
And there's a whole variety from small to big, different details in that. And those are fun because it just adds a little bit of the whimsy.
I mean, you add that one purchased piece to the rest that was foraged or collected, if you will. And I think that just sets the tone really nicely. And these little jars full of, I'm assuming, magic sprinkles.
Yes, so the magic sprinkles go along with our story. At the very end, after you build your home, there's a little process that we have to do to entice the fairies to come to our house.
Tell me about the story tie-in.
Okay, so my whole fairy gardening adventure started 2 years ago when an idea for a story popped into my head. about a girl that meets a fairy friend, and the fairy tells her, I need a place to stay, so can you build something for me? So the child gathers the supplies, builds her a home, places the fairy in her house and sprinkles the pixie dust, and when she claps her hands 3 times and says, I do believe in fairies, then the magic happens.
Oh,
yes.
So you can set the tone with that story, set about building your own cottage, your own fairy mansion, whatever it may be, and then the combination of those two, you have an enchanting little afternoon.
Totally. And the fun part about this story, when I read it aloud to kids, at the very end of the story, it tells the child, now as you read this fairy tale, you're wishing this were true, but secret's out, it can be yours. This magic's meant for you. Just think all your creative thoughts and clap your hands 3 times, then sprinkle magic pixie dust. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten the line.
Listen, I was wrapped up in every word you were saying, so I'm not even missing that last line because I'm like, yes, clap my hands, sprinkle the dust, it's all there.
And the child feels it,
there
and it's magical.
Yes, oh my gosh. Okay, so as far as the actual project goes, we've got the book, we've set the scene. Hot glue, is that your stabilizer?
Yeah, so if we're building this house, find a part of the log that works well, maybe a flat part in the beginning.
Do you have to do any sawing or sanding or adjusting?
You know, if it has a pretty flat base, which most of mine do, then you're set. Otherwise, yeah, if you want to saw off the bottom, you can, but generally they have a flat base if you're getting it from a pre-cut wood.
Okay, okay.
Once you glue on the door, then you can add little flowers. If you're having small hands build these houses, use a low temp glue gun.
Yes.
And then, yeah, you just glue the moss around. Another tip, if you're having a smaller child, like 2 or 3, build the home, you can just pre-drill holes into the log and then have them just place the stems inside. That way you can eliminate the glue altogether.
Gotcha. You mentioned some of these extending even into fall with the gnome homes and kind of the woodier effect on the florals or the berries and the moss. Where do you store these?
So these can be placed anywhere. If you're a crazy fairy lady like me, I have them on my fireplace
That's a compliment.
mantle.
I hope that's your bumper sticker. Own it, girl.
Pretty much. Otherwise, we have a little fairy village in our backyard. We place these in the village, and they're on a drip line with sprays, and they hold up really well.
Well, they really are magical. So thanks for sharing that magic. And where can we get the book?
The book is online on my website, so it's beeblebop.com, and it has all the accessories. We sell the pixie dust, even little fairy friends.
And so probably so rewarding to see the kids get into this, obviously, but to see moms engaged at just the same, level of magic is awesome. Thank you, Cynthia. Great to see you.